Hello, and welcome on in, everybody. I hope you are having a good day so far. In today's video, we are going to speak about some Hailey things, as everyone is starting to get closer and closer to that in-game content, aka the Purge, which in my opinion is probably the most difficult activity in the game at the moment. However, as of the latest patch 1.2.7, if I'm not mistaken, there has been some changes. Specifically, or namely, those changes are to the Purge, and they have lowered the health of some of the elite enemies, or most of the elite enemies. So they have effectively made it easier for people to do solo content. They have also made the levels 26 and 27 on the Purge table to be done in public matchmaking as well. So it's no longer required for you to only do it solo, which in my opinion, I don't understand it. I don't know why you make public matchmaking and then you still make it easier for solo people. I think is instead of making it public matchmaking for everyone on those levels, they should have then just made it a bit easier for people who is doing it solo to handle it. But obviously they have their reasons for doing this. I can't fight it, but it is a lot, and trust me when I say a lot easier to go through solo content in the Purge now. So this is just a little video for anyone out there, because I know a lot of people tried to do the Purge and the main focuses were always your Haileys, your Glaze and Lepics and Enzos, right? But now I feel that most Descendants will be able to go through the Purge solo without having to invest and spend catalyst and energy converters on characters that you never had before or that you had to build up from scratch. So aside from all of that, this however is a Hailey build, seen as a lot of people have gotten Hailey because of this, but it is still now even easier for you to go through the Purge on Hailey. And the weapons that you would want to be using, the most optimal weapons would be the Albion Calvary, and you can have a Smithereen shotgun as well. If you don't have the Smithereen shotgun, honestly, I've just run through it with the Albion Cavalry and there was no issues whatsoever. And there are two kind of separate builds that people have out for this, right? But my personal favorite is the shield build. So what the shield build allows you, which the HP build doesn't allow you to do, is shields automatically regenerate over time. So that means while you are stunning enemies, while you are shooting enemies with your Albion, your shields will automatically recover. Whereas your HP, if you build into health, if your health is low, it doesn't automatically recover. You have to pick up those health orbs on the ground in order for you to recover health, which makes it a bit less survivable than you would if you had a shield build on. And now we're going to talk a bit about the shield build. So obviously we have mid-air maneuverer. That is my favorite grappling module to use. If you want to use long air, if you want to use multi, it's all up to you, as long as you have this in here. What a lot of people still don't know is that adding a grapple mod to your build increases your build capacity or your module slot capacity by 10. If you have a catalyzed as well, it will increase it by 15 instead of 10. Right? So now that we have that sorted out, you want to have the main thing on this to make it a shield build is to have overwhelming shield. This will fix your max HP to 1, so your health will be 1, but fear not, because it will increase your max shield by 26.8% of your max HP. So essentially what this means is that your health will be on 1, but because you are building into shields, your shields will be plenty. You get much more shields by having overwhelming HP than you would if you just built straight into shields, because the difference between you being able to get more health and get more shields lies in your external components, and we're going to touch on that a bit later on in the video. But for now, you want overwhelming shield, and then you want to pair that with 2 HP mods. Your HP mods can be different depending on the Descendant you are using. So in my case, I went with Stim Accelerant because it increases my max HP by 234% and decreases my max MP by 15%. That is not a lot in the grand scheme of things, which is why I went with this. The other option that you have is HP Amplification. HP Amplification will give you 227 max HP, but it will minus 36% of your shields. Now, because this is a shield bow, you don't want to reduce the amount of shields that you get. If it was not a shield build, then I would probably go with HP Amplification. As a matter of fact, whenever I'm playing any build that doesn't revolve around shields, I use HP Amplification instead of Stim Accelerant. But nevertheless, you have your Stim Accelerant, you have HP increase. This will give you an extra 218% in your max HP. For your two shield mods, you want to have increased shield and you want to have max shield. That will give you a joint of about 300% extra shield, which is amazing. Now, because our health is fixed at 1, so our health is always going to be 1 no matter what we do. It will either be 1 or it will be 0. It depends. If you die, it will be 0. But your health is going to be fixed at 1. You want to have Walk a Tightrope on there. Walk a Tightrope states that when your HP is 50% or lower, your skill power modifier is plus 30%. We don't care about that. We do care, however, about the second bit, which is your firearm attack will be increased by 30%. So because your HP is fixed to 1, that means you're constantly below 50% HP. You are going to always have that 30% extra firearm attack, which is crazy. So that is why we're on Walk a Tightrope. You want to then also have Strong Mentality, which reduces your skill costs, and I'm going to explain why a little bit later when we get into the playstyle that you're going to use for Hailey, but keep that in mind. Then you have Maximize Conservation. This is the same as Strong Mentality. We will touch on it, but it reduces your skill cost by 35%. Lastly, we will have Biosync Shield. Biosync Shield is just there as a safety net. So if your shields are low and you don't have enough time to recover your shields, automatically you can walk over a health orb, and what that will do is it will convert the health that you would get from it into 70% of that will go towards your shield. So if you recover 5,000 health when you pick up a health orb, 70% of that will then go to your shield. So instead of recovering health, you recover your shield, which is great to have as a backup plan in case your shields are low and you don't have any other means. The last mod that I would want to put on here that would be beneficial to you would be Shot Focus, because what Shot Focus does is that it increases your firearm attack by 15% straight off the bat. And that is good because we are running a gun build on Hailey, so you're never going to really be using your skill power as an offensive. And then lastly, if you do have it catalyzed and you have enough module capacity, I would suggest you go for Cryogenic Cluster Shot, because what this is that it modifies your first ability so that you can stack extra damage on an enemy. So just by shooting the enemy, they will explode when they die and they will give off these AoE explosions that can do extra damage. It's just a bit of extra utility so you can get a bit more damage out, but I wouldn't say it's like fully needed for the build. If you just have the mods that I have on screen in your build, you should be completely fine. You won't run into any issues. Your MP is always going to be high enough, so you never have to worry. So now let's talk about how to use Hailey. So Hailey's third ability is going to be the only ability you're going to really need for this, and the third ability is called Cold Fury, and this is it grants Hailey Cold Fury every second. The Cold Fury effect gradually decreases her movement speed but greatly increases her firearm and skill critical hit rates and firearm penetration. When Cold Fury reaches max stacks, Hailey becomes immune to knockdown and gains an increase to her firearm and skill critical hit damage. However, when using a roll or grapple hook, the stacks decrease. So this is like -3 stacks whenever you roll or whenever you use your grapple. But I would suggest that you use it for mobility to get to the next location faster, because by the time you start shooting, those stacks recover pretty quickly. So you don't have to worry about giving up a few stacks. just so you can get to your next location, so you can get through the purge stages a bit faster. So what this means is that when you start off the game, you're going to use your third ability. That is going to give you Cold Fury, and the stacks will go up from 1 all the way to 16. It gets up to 16 very fast, so you don't have to worry about that. But your objective is to maintain it at 16 at least while you are in gunfights, because getting it to 16 will give you the increased firearm critical hit damage as well as the firearm critical hit rate. The hit rate will be all the way from 1 to 16, but the hit damage that you get, the extra percentage, which is 20% extra damage increase, you only get once you are at max stacks. You're going to be in this for the entirety of the purge run. But very few circumstances where you won't have MP and you will run out, but with the amount of enemies you're going to be killing and the amount of things that are going to be dropping, you are going to have MP lying around in case you need to top up. You can always just roll over or walk over to an MP orb and you can pick it up and you'll be good to go again. Aside from Hailey's modules, we will now talk about the Albion Calvary, which is the main weapon that we are going to be using for this. Now, there are different builds and there are different ways you can go around it, all thanks to the coring system. The first thing we are going to talk about with the weapon is how it works and what makes it so good on Hailey. The unique ability of this weapon is called Cavalry, and what it says is on hit, inflict mark on the enemy. On hitting an enemy inflicted with mark, increases critical hit rate and applies this buff to the attack. Each critical hit ricochets to a nearby enemy with the highest remaining HP ratio, stunning the enemy hit by the ricochet. Continued fire grants the horseshoe effect. Okay, so on the Albion Cavalry, you have your bread and butter, as I say, the 3 mods that you should be using on 99% of your weapons if it's available to go on there. You have your rifling reinforcement, you have action and reaction, and you have fire it up. Apart from that, because this is an LMG, it's a machine gun, we want to be able to get the most rounds we possibly can so that we can keep firing and keep stunning and keep doing what we need to do. So the 2 mods for magazine size will be in there, which is expand weapon charge and concentrate support ammo. Concentrate support ammo also gives you an additional 6.5% on critical hit damage, which is amazing because Hailey scales critical hit damage and critical hit rate, so you want to be able to push out the most on there, which is why we have those 2. Then we have better concentration. Normally on other weapons, or rather on other Descendants, I would have better concentration with better insight, because better concentration gives you a 74% increase in your hit damage, and better concentration gives you increase in your critical hit rate. But because Hailey has the ability to scale up a critical hit rate, we don't use that, so we have the opportunity to focus on getting more damage out rather than building into critical hit rate through the mods. We have concentration priority, which will increase your critical hit damage by 120%. This is a must have. This increases your damage crazy. Like the minus 30% reload that you get from it really does not outweigh the amount of damage you will be getting from having that mod, so definitely have that. I then also have sharp precision shot. This is a DPS must have. If you're running anything DPS wise, you want to have sharp precision shot, because you are going to be dealing much more damage once your fire rate starts kicking up. It does slow your fire rate down by 20%. However, the increase in fire rate goes up by, I think, like it's an extra 40% when it's at max. So basically you start off with a lower fire rate, but by the end of it your fire rate is much higher, and we all know that higher fire rate means more damage. So that is why we run sharp precision shot on her. And then lastly, I have chill priority. Chill priority will give you an extra 50% on your chill attack, and it also decreases your reload modifier by 30%. And I know this is a lot of reload modifier decreases, but for the damage that you are going to be outputting and for the damage that you need to output in Purge, this is a very good way to go. The very last mod that I would suggest you put on here would probably be Chill Enhancement, or you could go for Snowflake Conductor. Snowflake Conductor will say, when attacking an enemy afflicted with frostbite, your firearm attack will increase by 20% odd. But I haven't built it up so far to be able to put that. I have to put 2 more catalysts in here. I have to put a catalyst on my fire rate up, and I have to catalyze the slots so that I can actually put those in there. But for now, this is what I'm running with, because I still have a lot of other weapons, and we all know that catalysts are very far and few to come by. Okay, now we're going to talk about what these effects are and what they do and how they actually work into making this gun one of the best weapons to use for Purge. So, on hitting an enemy afflicted with mark, your firearm critical hit rate increases by 30. I'm thinking this is 30%. They don't put percentage in there, but it just says 30. I'm hoping that it's 30%, right? And then your ricochet gets applied to 3 targets, and the additional damage that you get on your ricochets are 32%. The stun duration is 4 seconds. This duration does increase based off the amount of enhancements you have in the weapon. So if your weapon is level 1, you don't have any enhancements in it, you won't get as long as the stun duration. I think it starts on 1.5 seconds, if I'm not mistaken. But the more you enhance your weapon, which the max is 4 obviously, it will push up these statistics as well. So you end off on a 4-second stun. And then Horseshoe states that firing duration is for every 0.1 seconds. Max stacks is 10. Your movement speed when not aiming is plus 50. Your movement speed per stack while firing is 50. And then your movement speed while aiming is 50. All of that is 50. So essentially what Horseshoe does is, while you are holding the trigger, as long as you are holding the trigger down, you get a movement increase. Whether you're aiming the weapon or whether you're not aiming the weapon, you will get an increase. That doesn't really come into play much on Hailey. This effect doesn't work. I don't know if it's a bug, or I don't know if it's intended, but every other character that gets slowed by certain abilities, like Glay, when she uses her 3rd ability while in Frenzy, she gets slowed tremendously. But when you have the cavalry on Glay, somehow she gets the movement speed buff from it, but Hailey just doesn't. But anyway, that is beside the point. So what this weapon is going to do are a few things. It's going to stun enemies. So that means it's easier for you to survive, because you shooting one enemy, everything else around it gets stunned, nothing is shooting you, everyone is happy. The second thing is that firing this weapon, and just by firing, you don't have to worry about the nitty-gritties and making sure that you proc these abilities, because I promise you, just by shooting, you are going to proc it. As long as you're holding down that trigger, you do not have to worry about proccing anything, because it will all proc, and it gives you extra critical hit rate. The reason why it's so good with Hailey is exactly because of those 2 things, the extra critical hit rate and the stunning. Because Hailey is slow in her 3, it's difficult for her to dodge or to get out of the way of attacks. If you're using the Albion Calvary, you are stunning enemies around you, so you don't have to move, you just have to focus on shooting, and you're getting the increased critical hit rate. So my suggestion is, when using the weapon, instead of shooting smaller enemies with smaller health pools, like, you know, those rank and file or those red bar enemies that kind of fall over very quickly, whenever you shoot, you're shooting at the elites. Your yellow bar enemies, you're shooting at the more tanky ones, because they are going to take more bullets, and obviously once you shoot them, your bullets will ricochet to all other enemies. And especially in the Purge, by the time you kill one elite, your ricocheted bullets will have taken out all the other smaller enemies in the process. So you're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. That is the main weapon you'll be using on Hailey. Like I said, you could use any other utility weapon. I think that the Valtier, while not so much anymore, but before, the Valtier was a must to take down the shields of the enemies. I always keep it in my loadout just in case I need it. And then lastly, you could have any other weapon. I like to run 3 different weapons so that my ammo doesn't like cross over and I get less ammo per weapon. So I will always run a general rounds weapon, an impact rounds weapon, and then or special rounds weapon, and I'll run a high power round weapon. My weapon of choice is the Smithereens, although I might be changing this depending on what the buffs were to Restored Relic. Yes, believe it or not, Restored Relic actually got a buff. So it does more AoE damage now. When you fire a rocket, it lets off, as soon as the guided rocket hits, it lets off these smaller cluster bombs that do extra damage, so it actually does more damage now than it done before. So that is very interesting. I used it not on enemies, I just shot it around just to see what it was like, and it's very clear to see that those extra cluster bombs are there, and there's quite a few of them. So you are going to be mowing down a lot of things, adds and big tanky enemies with restored relic. So I might switch this out. With regards to your reactor and your external components, on your reactor, I do not have the best reactor for this. I've been searching and grinding so hard to get a skill cost, skill duration reactor. I've been trying to get a skill cooldown, skill duration for my Lepic, but I haven't been that lucky yet. But I think the most important thing you would want to have on your reactor in the subsets is gold skill cost, especially on Hailey. It's going to be work very well. It just means that it will cost less MP for you to be in your ability, so that you can stay in your 3 as long as you possibly can. For your external components, because we are building into max HP, you want to have HP on all of your external components. So your auxiliary, if you have an auxiliary that has a double HP roll, that would be amazing. You could put that there. You could also have max HP on all your other external components. The one thing I would suggest in your sensor is to have a max HP, max MP if possible. And then in your memory, you want to have a max HP MP recovery mod if you can. And then lastly, you want to have max HP and a max shield. That I think would be the best, so that you can maximize the most out of what you have at the moment. That is it for today's video. If there is anything that you would like me to cover, let me know in the comments. I appreciate the support that everyone's been giving me so far. If you have not subscribed yet, please hit that sub button. I am literally just starting off on YouTube. I'm trying to be innovative, and I'm trying to change a few things, trying to create an identity. So any support that I can get from anyone would be greatly appreciated. I will try and be as up and running as possible. So I'll try and keep content fresh and try and keep uploading as much as I can. If you would like to, you could come over to the Twitch. I will pop the link of the Twitch somewhere on screen for you, and it will be in the description as well. You're more than welcome to come there. You can come and chill. We can do some purges. We can run some activities and just have a nice good talk. But yeah, until the next one, as always, make sure that you eat, make sure that you hydrate, but most importantly, take care of yourself. Bye bye.